Chapter 21. Amur Constantine, caught with a hand in the till. Chief Alfonzo lived in a sober house at the outskirts of the village, since crime didn't run rampant, to say the least, in these parts, and the chief's salary was meager at best. He cultivated a garden patch and grew some orchard fruits to sell at the weekly market. His wife looked after most of the canning and pickling, which businesses brought a nice income to the family of four. "And you say you found these boxes in your medicine cellar, Gaston?" the chief queried, as the young smithy deposited the cartons on the desk. "Yes, we did," Generoso replied. "Vicente, Renaldo, and Gaston and I witnessed these boxes being lodged in the cellar beneath one of the stalls in Gaston's stables." "Yes, we did," Generoso replied. "Vicente, Renaldo, Gaston, and I witnessed these boxes being lodged in the cellar beneath one of the stalls in Gaston's stables." "Very well, then," Alfonzo said. "I will have to send this evidence to Salerno for analysis, but in the meantime you say that your cousin, Vicente Ricciulli, believes it is heroin. Has he signed a statement to that effect?" The question was directed to Generoso. "Absolutely. We have all written a statement, Chief, which I brought with me." Generoso dropped his portfolio on the desk and pulled 4 sheets of paper out of it. "You can add these to the file, Chief." He handed them to him. "That's good." Alfonzo looked at Generoso and plopped down in the chair facing the desk. Sit down, he said, pointing at the 2 chairs across from him. Gaston and Generoso did. "Okay," the chief went on. "As I understand it, you want me and my constable Leon to wait until this Amur Constantine fetches the replacement boxes out of your cellar. Is that the plan?" He looked at Generoso. "Yes, Chief. With his hand in the till sort of thing. If the man really needs a midway station between East and West Coast, our village is perfectly placed for that to happen." "But why, would be my question, Signor Ricciulli? I can't see why the smuggler would need to have a midway station, as you call it. Does he perhaps intend to sell the drugs around here?" Generoso shook his head. "No, I don't think so, Chief. But maybe he has other consumers in the south or in Naples that would want to buy the drugs." "I see," said the chief. "He chose Castelnuovo as some sort of pivotal point from which he could distribute his drugs throughout the southern and western country, right?" "Yes, Chief Alfonso," Gaston suddenly piped up. "Of course, if he proposes to increase my routes by sending Renaldo to Naples and say further south to Calabria, I would be tempted to accept the deal. It would mean a lot more money for me and a couple more horses in my stables." "And would you be tempted?" "No, Chief. Like in any venture, I would have to risk something to succeed, but here the price is really too high. I could not see myself trafficking something illegal like opiates for the pleasure of seeing 2 more horses in my stables. No, Chief. I would not sleep at night." "Well said, Gaston. Well said indeed." The chief brought his body back and closer to the desk. "And when is this Amur Constantine likely to come through?" "In some 10 days, I should think," Gaston said. "Generally, he comes through in the middle of the month." "Fine. That should give us plenty of time to organize a few people." "You mean like some sort of lynching party?" Generoso sounded appalled. Alfonzo guffawed as he rose from his chair. "No, Signor Ricciulli, not at all, but I would prefer to have a couple of strong bodies on hand to capture this suspect. Gardening and selling fruit at the market does not keep me in shape, nor does my age." He rounded his desk as the 2 men got to their feet. "Thank you for wanting to help, Gaston, Chief," Generoso said, shaking hands with Alfonzo. As an afterthought, he then added, "Were you the one who received the pouch that was found in Gaston's coach? Your statement in the documentation only said, 'We accepted a pouch.' I was wondering who the 'we' was." Chief Alfonzo smiled benignly and shook his head. "I was not in the office at the time the man came in, and it was Leon who accepted the pouch." "Then we should make sure that Leon is among the men who will be witnessing the ambush." "And I can assure you, Signor Ricciulli, Leon will be there." The chief turned to Gaston again. "But you or Renaldo need to let us know when the carriage is in sight, or you've seen it come up the valley road, okay?" "We will, Chief, no problem." A week or so passed without incident, and before Amur Constantine's carriage was due to arrive to Castelnuovo di Conza. That morning Gaston suggested that Renaldo takes his position in the bell tower of the local church to watch for Constantine's arrival. "As soon as you see the carriage, you'll need to use your whistle to alert Chief Alfonso. We won't have much time to gather in the stables." "I think you should stop worrying, Gaston," Renaldo replied as he stood up from the table in Isabella's kitchen, where the 2 men just finished breakfast. "Even Vicente Ricciulli will be watching from the rooftop of their house, so we'll all know when Constantine will be about to enter the village." Better be safe than sorry, Isabella remarked as Renaldo walked out. In the Ricciulli household, Giuseppe had been the first up, as usual, and was already posted at the attic's window, watching the road in the valley below. He knew he would not only see the carriage first, but would hear Renaldo's whistle in the church tower. It was about 11 in the morning when Giuseppe saw Constantine's carriage, and soon afterward heard Renaldo's whistle. Giuseppe always wondered who had carved such a great whistle for his friend, but Renaldo had never said. Giuseppe didn't waste time. He climbed down the stairs on the double and rushed to the front door where Generoso and Vicente were waiting for him. "Let's go," Giuseppe said, hurrying out and running down the street towards the stables. Vicente and Generoso trotted behind the young man, panting when they reached their destination. Generoso smiled. "I really need to exercise. It's getting harder and harder to run." "Ah, there you are," Chief Alfonzo said as he saw them enter the stables. "Let's take our positions inside the stalls." "Where is Gaston?" Vicente asked. "He's in the smith's shop, where he usually is," Alfonzo replied. "Renaldo is brushing down one of the horses. Everything is as usual." "Okay then," Generoso said. "Where do you want us?" "You and Giuseppe should go near the back of the cellar stall, and Vicente and I will take the door, to make sure that Signor Constantine does not flee through the pasture." In the 10 minutes that followed, the carriage pulled up under the porch. The driver came down from his perch, went to open the door for the passenger to alight the vehicle, and retreated quickly to the front of the team to take the harnesses off the horses. With Renaldo's help, Leon the constable went to take a place at the back of the smith's shop, well in the shadows of some haystack so not to be seen. The identification of Signor Constantine was imperative to solidify the case against him. Amur Constantine was a rotund fellow, with his girth adorned of a red sash over a pair of black trousers and a white shirt. The attire was almost comical. He wore some sort of a cape over his shoulders and carried a cane for effect. As for his face, it was as round as his body and as red as the sash around his belly. Vicente saw the man quite clearly from his hiding place, and was about to burst into laughter when the chief clamped a hand over his mouth. "Don't you utter a word, senor. I'll be forced to clobber you into silence," the chief whispered in angry tones. "Sorry," Vicente replied, lowering his gaze to the floor beneath his feet. Meanwhile, Constantine had entered the smith's shop. He went to stand near the anvil where Gaston was working on new horseshoes for his mare. "Gaston, how are you, my boy?" Constantine bellowed, to be heard over the noise of the forge. "Just fine, Signor Constantine. What can I do for you?" Gaston replied, before lifting his gaze to his guest and dipping the horseshoe in the nearby tub of water. "I'll be staying at the Big Horn for the night as usual, and I was wondering if you would like to join me for a tumbler of wine this evening. I have a proposition for you, which I think might interest you." "Oh, and what proposition might that be, Signor?" "Tonight will be soon enough, Gaston. I don't want to intrude on your duties. Just come at the inn at, say, 6 o'clock, and we'll talk about it." Gaston didn't want to say no, but was not overjoyed at the thought of spending any time anywhere with this man. "Very well, then. I'll be there as you asked." "Very good. And now I'd like to get some meds for one of my mares. She's had some colic last night, and I think I heard Renaldo say that you keep meds in the stables. Is that right?" Finally, Gaston thought. He's making a move. None too soon. "Sure thing, Signor Constantine. Come with me. I think you know where the cellar is. That's where I keep the meds." And with these words, Gaston led the way to the stables. There they found Renaldo in deep conversation with Constantine's driver, a man by the name of Enrico. "Signor, can I help?" Enrico was quick to say as soon as his master appeared in the doorway. No, Enrico. Gaston is going to get some meds for the mare. You just relax." "Here we are," Gaston said as he opened the stall. He opened the cellar door and went down the steps, Constantine in tow. Gaston then grabbed a couple of bottles of medicine and a syringe from one of the shelves. The items were next to the 2 cartons of opiate, pouches filled with flour, actually. "What have you got there?" Constantine asked, pointing at the 2 boxes. "Just a couple of cartons of pills. I keep them for the apothecary." "Why?" "What kind of pills are those?" Constantine was showing a lot of interest in these boxes. "May I see?" "I don't think so, Signor Constantine. These should not be opened by anyone but the apothecary." "I don't believe you, Gaston. You're probably keeping some more cocaine or heroin like the pouch I found in your coach." "So that was you. You're the one who accused me of trafficking. Why? Why did you do that?" "Because I'm a law-abiding fellow, Gaston. I hate traffickers like you." And what are you going to do about it, Signor Constantine? Are you going to tell the police about the boxes, are you? Not if you do what I tell you. Oh, yeah, and what's that? Gaston's blood was boiling by then. He was ready to punch the fellow in his fat mouth. You're going to travel to Naples whenever I need you to carry some packages for me. And then Calabria, right? How did you know? I didn't, Signor Constantine. Not at first, but my legal adviser did. Gaston then practically jumped out of the cellar and yelled, Come on, Chief, will you come and get rid of this trash? Within seconds, Constantine was in manacles and led unceremoniously towards the police house. As the driver, Vicente made quick work of him. Renaldo was the one to throw the first and only punch of the day right into the fellow's chin. He shook his hand and said, It hurts, but it feels fantastic. As Vicente, Generoso, and Giuseppe returned home that afternoon, Selina welcomed them with open arms. So very proud of you both, she said. I've baked a feast for the chief, Leon, and everyone who helped putting this whole terrible affair to rest. Oh, thank you, Selina, Generoso said, grinning. But are you sure you're not doing too much? Don't you start treating me like an old woman. I'm still hardy enough to kick your rear end, you know that? Vicente looked at Generoso. I think you'd better quit while you're ahead, otherwise we'll be going to our rooms without supper. There, that's the way to be. Thank you, Vicente, Selina concluded, turning on her heels towards the kitchen. By the way, Generoso said, calling after her, have you seen Domino's? He wasn't with us this morning. You know the shepherd, Generoso. He's probably gone up the mountain for a while. He likes his solitude, and he wouldn't have been of much assistance this morning, I don't think. Anyway, he'll be back for supper, I'm sure.